Hello and welcome to the podcast. You are listening to part 2 of the most recent episode with Matt from Mortal Sin. If you haven't listened to that first episode yet, I'd advise you to go and do so now because this won't make a whole lot of sense without it. And if you are back for part 2, thanks again and enjoy.
Mortal Sin from Australia, never heard of them. So basically, another case of pure stroke of luck. I had my phone number on the album. You know, when I was living in Parramatta, I had my home number on the album. You know, I just thought, well, because I was basically managing the band, so I was taking all the calls. So I get this call one day. It was like, I don't know, it was 3 o'clock in the morning or something. Who the fuck is ringing me at 3 o'clock in the morning? I get up and I answer, and he goes, "Oh, is it Mortal Sin?" I go, "Yeah, this is Matt from Mortal Sin, the singer." So, my name's David Thorne. I'm the A&R guy from Phonogram Records. And I'm like, "What?" He said, "I'm the A&R manager from Phonogram Records." And I go, "Phonogram Records?" And I'm like, "Bullshit. You're shitting me. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, mate. Fucking go back to sleep." You know, so, and you know, he's trying to convince me. Look, no, I'm from Phonogram Records. I was in Shades Records the other day, and they played your record, and I thought it was the new Metallica album. It was like, "We want to sign you guys." And I'm like, "Fuck off, you idiot." Like, really? Yeah. I just thought it was someone who was pulling our leg, you know, because Pommy accent, like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was half asleep. So by that time, I'm kind of waking up a bit. And I'm like, is this guy for real? So I think this guy's serious. So I said, "Oh, can you call me back like it's 3 o'clock in the morning here. Can you call me back at another time when I'm awake and I can comprehend all this?" And he said, yeah, no worries. And like, it was the next day, and I think it was 9 p.m. at night, so it was a better time. He says, yeah, this is David Thorne from Phonogram Records, and we're really interested in signing you guys. And pretty much at the same time, I'd got a letter from MCA Records in America as well, which were a major label as well, you know, and we're like, wow, this is a little bit surreal here, you know. It's like everybody wants to sign Mortal Sin, and they're major labels. It's like not like Music for Nations or, you know, sort of smaller labels. This was a fucking major label. So, you know, we're sort of sitting there, and basically the next day I had to ring all the guys and say, guys, Phonogram Records from London wants to sign us. And they're the same as I was. I was like, fuck off, you idiot. You're not. I'm like, serious guys, I got a call. I got 2 calls from this guy from Phonogram Records, which at the time Metallica had signed with as well. So, you know, they were on Music for Nations, which was that smaller label. But then, you know, things started to get really big with the thrash metal. You know, it was starting to get this roll, almost like a snowball, getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it's rolling down the hill. And, so I said to the guys, "No, guys, this is serious. These guys, they want to order 2,000 records of us, and they want to sign us." So I had to pack up these. It was like I don't know, it might have been more, it might have been 3,000. At the time, you know, we'd sent probably 50 to 100 LPs we'd send all around the world to all the fanzines and radio stations and stuff like that. So I had to send 2,000 or 3,000 of these records to Phonogram. You know, it's like, okay, we've just, like, in 2 weeks, have just sold 4,000 records. You know, because we'd sent 100 to WA, and it was 100 to Melbourne. You know, so the 1,000 that we sold in Australia were pretty much gone. And so it was, all right, send us a contract. You know, that way we'll know it's for real. So in those days it was like fax, and, you know, it was letter. You didn't even have emails and stuff like that. So everything was so slow in those old days. You had to wait for a letter to come from England. You had to wait for a fax to come through. A 46-page fax coming through was like, it's like 3 hours on a slow connection, you know. So yeah, it's kind of funny when you look back on it all, but. We hired a lawyer, and we went through this contract, and next thing we know it, we're signed to a major label. And it's like, oh man, this is just a dream come true, you know. It's like, did we get lucky or is it what? You know, it's like a little bit of everything, a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, a little bit of, you know, that stroke of genius of sending them to everywhere and all that sort of stuff. So that was pretty much that got everything up through 86, 87. I don't know, they were going to release it worldwide, you know, but they wanted to improve the cover. You know, they loved the concept, but they just thought it was a little bit how you going kind of vibe, you know. And so we said, oh, whatever, man. You know, as long as it's got that concept, that's great. So anyway, they approached an artist who at the time was you know, he was looking for work. He was sort of starting to get a name. He was his name was Simon Bisley, and he was just putting together a comic book called 2000 AD, I think it was, which I don't know much about comics. You probably don't know much about comics, but in the comic world, it's big. So he was chosen to draw a new design. So he basically had the concept. He just had to come up with a better idea. And so I got this call from the record company say, look, we've had an artist do he's redone the artwork and everything, and we're going to send it out to you and have a look. So, you know, 2 weeks later, you know, it's airmail, no express even. I get this artwork come through, and I'm just looking at it going, fuck, that is fucking awesome. So I showed it to the guys, and they were like, oh man, this is killer. This is the best artwork ever. You know, so we said yes, and basically I think within a few months they got their shit together, and we were all around the world. You know, it's like Mortal Sin, next biggest thing out of Australia. Like, yeah, right. So, yeah.
The truth is different.
So it's like, well, great. So when are we coming over to England? You know, because I was basically on the phone to this A&R guy quite often, you know, because we talked about we were going to do interviews and all that sort of stuff. And all I cared about was, so when are we coming to England? You know, this is 87 by this time, and we thought it's time. We got to go to England. We got to travel overseas. You know, when you pick up these Metal Forces magazines and you see all these ads, Anthrax are playing, the Testament's playing, you know, it's like, oh, we got to go there. There's nothing in Australia. We got to go there. No, you're not ready yet. You're not ready. We got to get your album out. Got to do this. Got to do that. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, what? How? What do you mean? We've got a tour. So we had these arguments over and over and over and over again, and that was probably our biggest fear. It's like we signed to a major label. It's like, you got to do what you're told. You know, it's like. You know, you could be a big fish in a small pond, or you'd be a small fish in a big pond. So we were like these small fries in this massive, huge fucking ocean of phonogram records. So they had a plan for us, and we had a different plan. You know, it was like, dude, we've got to come. We're going to come and play. And there was all these awesome shows. At the time, we were probably on the same level as bands like Testament. And that's, you know, the second wave of thrash, you know, not the 83, 84, but the 86, 87, 88 wave. And, you know, we kept seeing, oh, Testament's going, oh, Anthrax is going, oh, Megadeth's going, they're all going to Europe. Why aren't we going to fucking Europe, you know? So I was like, no, we just got to get this out there, and we got to work a plan, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, by this time we were already starting to work on new songs. You know, it was 87 had pretty much flown by. You know, we were sort of getting our own version of the record out. They were getting their version of the record out, but we were writing songs and arguing about touring, you know. So, you know, as you know, being in Australia, there's only so many places you can play at. So, you know, we'd sort of gone around and around and around and around, did as many shows as we could in Sydney and Melbourne, basically, because that's where the thrash scene was. And so, yeah, we basically started writing new album, you know, which was sort of late 87, coming into early 88. We basically were ready to record when you were born, August 88. So, we'd already had another 8 songs. So we were kind of one step ahead of the record company. We were just pushing on, nobody's going to tell us what to do. We're going to write songs. So we were basically hitting them up for money to record a second album. They gave us a lot of money. I look back at the record contracts and I said, wow, with that sort of money, we could have 20 studios today. You could set up with that sort of money. We could have bought our own freaking studio. So anyway, when it came time to recording the second album, we'd got all these reviews. We were sort of this awesome band from Australia. Everyone was talking about us. I was doing interviews for South American magazines, North American magazines, Canadian, Japanese, everywhere around the world, Indian magazines. I was doing interviews for everyone. So the vibe was good, And when it come time, we were sort of writing the second album, Face of Despair. We were kind of getting better at what we were doing as well as, smarter and that sort of stuff. So the songs were a little more refined because we basically had got Mick Burke in the band at that stage. I think in the midst of 1987, Keith was sort of starting to show, the pressure of everything that was happening was all a bit too much for him. When we got Mick into the band, the whole writing vibe kind of changed because he was this guitarist who was thoughtful and, he knew what he was playing and he just had riffs coming out of his head, So some of the songs on Face of Despair, or was it all of them? I can't think of it at the moment. It really show his musicianship come through and kind of lifted us as well, So instead of that going backwards with Keith and, sort of not moving along in the musicianship, Mick came along and brought us to the level that we needed to make this second record for a major label. So, we'd made some demos and that sort of stuff and sent them over to the record company. They were like, yeah, we like this. This is good. So they gave us a massive budget. I think it was like $200,000 or something, which I'd love to have that money again. Because you tell bands these days, when they're trying to get a record deal, and record companies these days aren't even giving any money. You've got to record your own record and then go to a record company and say, oh, we finished recording our album. They don't want to spend money anymore.
Please promote me.
Yeah. So basically we'd booked studios and everything. And I think at the time I was still working while we were recording. So I was like doing an 8-hour shift at work, starting at 4 o'clock in the morning, going and doing 2:30 in the afternoon, going down to the studio, recording from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. and then going straight to work. And I think like 2 or 3 days like this had gone along and your mum was in basically starting to go into labour with you, and my head was just all over the place. And I hadn't had sleep for days and it was a pretty crazy time. So, we recorded the album and we basically had a guy named Randy Burns who was a producer, and before he did us, he did a Megadeth album and Suicidal Tendencies, a couple of really big bands, I was like, this would be really good. So anyway, this time around, we thought we'd go back to 301 Studios because we were comfortable there and we liked it. And Wayne went in and recorded his parts. He was like there for a week. Whereas the first album, he was there for like 4 hours doing all this tracking. So he was there for a week and we were listening to playbacks, and Randy Burns just goes, I don't like it. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Shit, I don't like it. And we're like, what don't you like? The drums or the sound? Or no, it's nothing to do with the drums, it's the sound. Didn't like the sound. Don't like the mics, don't like the room, I don't like anything. So we wasted a whole week in 301 Studios. Let's find another studio. And of course, by that time there was no studios around. It's like you got to book ahead, But we did find one. I was looking over some letters from our publishers saying, you have Rhinoceros, which was where in '88 everyone recorded Cold Chisel, Midnight Oil, everyone who was everyone recorded in excess, recorded Rhinoceros, But it was quite expensive. It was like $3,000 a day or something ridiculous like that. He went over to check the room, have a listen to some things, and I think someone was in there recording at the time, and he just said, no, I don't like that one either. And he wanted this particular desk. He wanted a Neve desk, it had to be a Neve desk. He always works on Neve, it's got to be a Neve desk. Well, the only studio in Sydney that, apart from 301, which had a Neve desk, was a studio called Paradise Studios, which was in the middle of King's Cross, and it was owned by Billy Fields, who was a pop star. It was basically, he had a song called I Can't Help Myself, Bad Habits, or something like that, I don't know. So, but he owned the studio, and we rang him up and said, have you got any time with vacancies, Luckily for us, he had little blocks here and there. He had like a 2-week block, and then somebody was in there, and then another 2-week block, which kind of made it hard for us because you had to do you had to keep track of all your settings and all that sort of stuff. So we basically, we took it, and I think it was maybe a month later or something like that, and went in and started recording Face of Despair. And I don't know, Face of Despair sort of got out. You were a little tosser, a couple of months old. At that time, we're starting to, get a little bit antsy about touring. We still hadn't gone overseas. It was '88, and so by the time we'd signed with Phonogram Records, and by the time we'd finished recording this second record, we still hadn't gone overseas. We were still just doing the traps around Australia, which, it was fine. We were pulling big crowds and everything and that sort of stuff, but we wanted to experience overseas. And they were like, yeah, we'll get you there, don't worry about all of that. And so that all happened. At that time, Metallica were basically releasing Injustice for All, which I won't say it's their biggest album to date, because, we all know the Black Album was the biggest one, but at the time it was what everyone was looking forward to hear. It was the lead up or the follow up to Master of Puppets, and Master of Puppets was just brilliant. It's like, how can they make it any more brilliant than that? And it wasn't until Phonogram rang up and said, Metallica are coming to tour Australia. And we're like, you're fucking kidding me. Yes. Because, at the time, it was kind of a stop-start vibe in Australia. Anthrax was going to come, Megadeth was going to come, and for whatever reasons, they didn't come. So we'd gone from 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, no one came. None of the thrash bands came to Australia. And that was it was as bad as us not going overseas. It was like the thrash fans in Australia, it's like, we just want to see these fucking bands, And then finally when Metallica announced that they were definitely coming, the whole thrash scene in Australia just went, just exploded, So we just finished our second album, and the record company was like, we're not going to bring it out until Metallica come, which was, at the time, was like eight months later or something. I'm like, what? You fucking got to get our album out now. So, again, we're on a major label. We had to do as they're told. Just we can't tell them how to run their show. They know what they're doing. All right. So the record didn't get released until Metallica came out, which was May 1989. And, as you know, August was when we basically had finished recording it or something like that. So you're talking, that's 8-9 months. So, but when they were coming out, my first question was, we're playing, we're the support band, aren't we? I was like, well, we don't know that, you're just like, bullshit, you fucking know it. I'm saying to them, we're the support band, it has to be. If we're not, then say goodbye, we're out of here. It's like, we've still got to talk to their management, blah, 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 all that sort of thing. And I got off the phone, I was like, nah, we're in. It has to be. Who else is going to play Metallica? We're label mates. Come on. So in my head, it was a given. They didn't confirm it until a long a month or so later. But in my mind, it was like, no, we're doing it. Nothing was going to stop us. And if anyone else was going to get it, I was going to kill them because it was our gig. So, yeah, it was that, the steps in our movement of moving forward, that had to be the next
progression.
Thing. Yeah, it was the obvious thing.
Yeah.
And the record was coming out. It was like, no, don't shit me. We're on this gig. That's why you delayed the album release. So yeah, and we tell all the guys, once it had been confirmed, I told all the guys, well, we're playing with Metallica. It's like, everyone's just, screaming the roof off. Basically, it was to us, it was like, we succeeded. It was just a small success. We're only a support band, yeah. So we're playing with Metallica, and it was basically, we're playing with Metallica. We've got to get our shit together, So basically, it was just rehearse. We had to go on this stage and we had to smash it. We had to kill it. We had to show anyone who was there who'd never heard of Mortal Sin. We had to show them Mortal Sin is king in Australia. Basically, we just had to prove why we got the major record deal, why we got the support. We felt like we owed something, so once we had got the Metallica gig, we also got phone calls from management companies. Oh, who manages you guys? Oh, I do. I've managed us from the start, and it's like, oh, well, we've got, this was a guy called Ian, what was his last name? I can't think of his last name now, and Steve White. Well, Steve White basically was involved with, a lot of the big Australian bands. If you Googled Steve White agency, you'd see probably the dog's balls of Australian rock. Didn't know anything about metal, but as far as management goes, he knew what he was doing. So I spoke to the guys. I said, look, things are going to start getting a lot bigger. We should probably talk about getting management. Blah, 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 blah. I can do it, but we should probably try and get someone. Of course, with you being a small tot and that sort of thing, it'd be good if someone could take that part of it off me. So anyway, we got management and everything like that. And so we prepared for this Metallica tour. We spent 2 solid months, just making sure we were so tight that, we were going to go out there and blow everyone's brains out. We never had any expectations of blowing Metallica off stage or anything, but we just had to, the aim of the game was to show the Aussie fans that, we can not match them, but we can prove our worth. There was no even thoughts of blowing Metallica off stage. So once the gigs rolled up and they were only going to play Sydney and Melbourne at the time. It's their first tour. Nobody really knew about it. We all did, but as far as promoters and things go, it was kind of a test for them. So they booked 2 shows. It was Hordern Pavilion and the Festival Hall in Melbourne. Well, those tickets sold out so quick. They sold out really quick, and they decided Adelaide fans put a petition together to say, you got to come to Adelaide. So they put a petition together, and I went to either the Australian promoter or Metallica management or something like that, and it was like 5,000, 6,000 signatures. So we got an extra gig out of it, basically, and so the Theberton Theatre was added to the run of shows, which now became the first gig. It was going to become Melbourne and then Sydney, but then it was Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney. So we had to do the long trek from Sydney to Adelaide, which, when you're in a bus lugging gear, was about a 17-hour drive.
Oh,
so I can't remember whether we did the trip straight or we stopped somewhere or not. I know we stopped at some record store in the middle of nowhere, and we get out to have a look. It was like a drinks break, toilet break kind of vibe, food break. So we go into this small shopping centre and we go into that record shop there and it's like, oh, there's our record. And it's like, is this your band? And all these kids are going, oh, are you Mortal Sin? It's like, yeah, signing autographs. And it's like, oh, everyone's like, wow, people know us.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we went down and we played Adelaide and in this Theberton Theatre, and it was pretty special. It was pretty special. It was a good gig, and we got to watch Metallica from side of stage, which to us that was not more important, but it was part one was us playing with Metallica. Part two was watching Metallica. We had this. We'd never seen Metallica live. You might have saw them on Headbangers Ball or something like that, but to actually see them live to us it was like, class is in, guys. Sit down and watch. Let's just see what the goal is. What is they're the tops. This is sit down and just study, watch them. So we did that, and then we next day or whatever we went across to Melbourne and Festival Hall. Festival Hall, in Australia is probably the most famous venue in Melbourne. Every international band who's anyone has played there. You look on the walls, scribble on the walls in the back dressing rooms is everyone. So here we are, playing Festival Hall. It was like Theberton Theatre was 2,000 people. Festival Hall's like, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 people. It was like, oh, playing in front of 7,000 people. So anyway, we're kind of a little bit nervous. We're backstage, and it was kind of getting time. We'd already done sound check and everything like that. It was getting to about 10 minutes before we were going on, and the crowd was getting really raucous, and lights sort of come on and we're at side of stage, and the crowd just started chanting, Mortal Sin, Mortal Sin. Like the whole crowd was like hairs on the back of our neck. If we were nervous before, it was like shit. Like, fuck, the whole crowd is screaming Mortal Sin. And I'm last to get on stage, and I quickly run to the toilet, I've got to take a leak, I go to the toilet, and someone from Metallica was in there. I don't know if it was management or a roadie or someone, and I'd walked in, and he looked at me and he says, who the fuck are these guys? And I go, oh, that's my band, Mortal Sin. It's so funny. And the crowd was just doing this Mortal Sin chant, Mortal Sin, Mortal Sin, Mortal Sin. It was going on for ages, And I just felt so proud, It was like this Metallica dude said, who the fuck are these guys, And that's my band. It's real smug.
Whilst taking a piss.
No, it was a really good feeling. And even though I was shaking like a leaf, I was nervous as all fuck. We went out on stage, and the crowd was just so behind us, They made us feel like we were as big as Metallica, It was just after every song, chanting, crowd, screaming and cheering, moshing. It was just the best feeling ever, So, yeah, again, afterwards, study, go watch Metallica, do your job, that sort of thing. Well, Sydney was next. It was, it was basically our hometown, It's like, oh, well, Melbourne was... how do we top Melbourne? We had to somehow top Melbourne. We thought, well, at least it's our home crowd, Hopefully they'll be behind us just like Melbourne was. So because it was our home gig, I had the chance to go home and, take a shower and just feel normal for 20 minutes. We went down to the Hordern quite early. We just wanted to get there early, sort of get the vibes, just to get into the mindset, basically. And we hadn't really approached the band before that. We were scared shitless. We don't want to go near him, But I'm kind of like I'm the shy person in the band. I'm sort of I don't know. I don't want to go up to him. But Wayne, goes up, shakes me, I'm Wayne from Mortal Sin. I'm the drummer, blah, blah, blah. So that kind of broke the ice. It's like, well, Wayne can do it, I can do it, So I'd taken a whole bunch of things down to get signed. I took all the albums and a skateboard and probably a few other things. And can you guys sign this? Yeah. They were in a pretty pretty happy mood, the Metallica guys, because it was the last show. They did New Zealand before they come to Australia as well, by the way. So for them, it was the last show of the leg, and then I think they were off to Japan or somewhere. And so, they were in a bit of a party mood, and I'd got everything signed, and I was like, pretty cool. And so we were just kicking back on the stage, talking about, how everything was going and stuff like that, and we could hear all this. That at the time, the Horton Pavilion was the other way around, like the stage was up the other end of the room, and the crowd came at the other end. So there was all these there were roller door shutters, and we could hear all this banging. Fuck, it must be getting pretty rowdy up there. Well, we later heard that there had been a riot. News crews were there, and it was, I don't know, they were trying to make it look like it was violent.
Of course.
And cars sort of trying to drive through where all the crowds were, and police. So people started chucking shoes and bottles and things at these cars that were trying to get through. And the newspaper were trying to, this is really good, let's make this into something,
The devil's music.
Oh, this is riot. It's like all the people that were there going, fuck, riot. We wanted to cause a riot. We would cause a fucking riot, So anyway, I'm sitting on the stage and I'm talking to Mick or Paul or somebody, and so this is probably maybe an hour before they were supposed to open the doors. I think it was maybe 5 in the hour or something, and doors were meant to open at 6 or something like that. Yeah, all of a sudden the doors opened up and just people run towards the stage where I was sitting. It's like, shit. Like they got up and I'm run, I ran to the back of the stage. So I just didn't know what they were doing. It's like they were all running to the front, which they were just trying to get the front spot of the punter barrier, which is, typical of these days.
Of course.
Yeah, so, I was like, oh, shit, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be so good. So anyway, like how do we top Melbourne? It was like we added a song to the set called Caught in the Mosh, which is an Anthrax song. I wanted to do it. Wayne didn't want to do it. There was this drum bit in it that he, wasn't 100% on, and it was on the set list and everything. And I look back at him. I'll come back to the beginning of the show, but I look back at him. He's going, no. I go, this is a song called Caught in the Mosh, and the crowd just like fucking erupted. It's like, well, instead of playing an Anthrax song, But anyway, going back to the beginning, like I said, in Melbourne, how the crowd chanted "Mortal Sin, Mortal Sin, Mortal Sin." Well, they pretty much did the same in Sydney, but after that, I'm backstage and I said to your mum, Diane, and everyone, what are they chanting? And they're going, Maurer, Maurer, Maurer. And I'm like, no, they're not. So, they're chanting fucking Maurer, Maurer, Maurer. And I found out who it was. It was Alex, who's a friend of ours. He started. He was like, shit. So, can you top Melbourne? It was like, well, just both gigs, we're just the dream gig, and everyone talks about it today, even that it's just the best metal gig ever, In Sydney, there was like, I think the capacity when it was facing the other way was like 8,500. So we played to 8,500 people. But when you talk about it today. And who was there? It was like 30,000 people were there, It's like, well, you couldn't have all been there. There was only held 8,500 people. So some of you are bullshit. But, I think it's just that everybody wanted to be a part of it, Everybody remembers it so well. It was just, In our minds anyway, it was just the greatest thing ever. We did better things later on, but
and we can talk about those later.
When you talk about highlights of your career, that pretty much is the number one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, were you going to ask some questions?
I was, but I didn't get a fucking word in, so here we are.
So, I can gab on. I can talk like a motor mouth sometimes, but
for like the quietest human on earth.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I don't talk much in the open, but when you're knowledgeable on a subject and you're confident about it, you can talk forever.
No, that's all good. And as I've sort of said in the introduction episode, we are going to do a couple of short stories in the future and talking about a couple of different gigs and highlights since that Metallica gig. So that's probably a really good point to wrap up today. I'm going to turn this into a two-parter, so stay tuned for more sessions after this. And yeah, thanks for chatting.
Oh my God, did we talk for nearly an hour and a half?
We did. I told you, you didn't shut up. I'm impressed.
Oh, well. Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow, an hour and 19.
Yep.
There you go.
Nicely done.
If you're keen to hear future episodes, please hit that like, follow or subscribe button on whatever platform you're hearing this episode on. You can get in touch and find the podcast on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube at The Heavy Corner, or you can check out the website at www.theheavycorner.com. This episode is recorded, edited and transcribed by me. A special thanks to Dan Gibbons for writing the music and of course thanks to our guests.